This is going to be an uneducated rant. Don't watch the video or click the links in the description because nobody ever does. Let me give you a proposal that's supposed to make sense. I'm a homeless person on and off for 10 years. I live out of a $30 tent. We call it the $30 Fred Meyer or Walmart special. It's the cheapest tent that is the following characteristics. And no, I'm not going to skip this part. Listen. Diagonally, it is over 6 feet across. Shape really doesn't matter. It has to be a dome tent. It's a $30 cheap tent. At a certain point, Fred Meyer stopped allowing sales of low-cost tents in areas that are blighted with homeless people because they bought them. And were picky because it had to last more than a year. We replace them every year, but it still has to work at the end of the year. Otherwise, we're not homeless. We're dying from hypothermia. It can't be made of mesh because that's a hypothermia tent. It has to be made out of cloth with the smallest amount of ventilation at the top possible. And instead of we'll call it the doily, rainfly, we remove it. I don't even remember actually keeping them after I figured this out. And put a tarp over it that's enough of the dimensions that we can pull it up over the top, run a stick or just 2 or 3 tent poles in sequence to hold it up off the tent, and that becomes the rainfly. It cannot have front and rear ventilation holes. That's not where they go. The idea is that this allows air to flow really only one direction over the tent, dries it out, and the plastic neoprene, whatever tarp, whatever you're using, it's usually just one of the, the blue tarp kind of thing. It gets the rain off. Now, again, the tarp isn't $30. It's about $5. And I use a 9x12 or whatever I needed, whatever size would fit. And measure it by putting a piece of rope over the top and figuring out the dimensions that way. And then the front to back dimensions. It has to have a door that will stay zipped shut. It can't be breathy and airy. I'm sorry, but I'm going to explain this to every one of you out there that I call a shit kicker camper. Ventilation so you don't get precipitation or condensation in the tent is not what anybody needs who's actually needed to survive a winter. You're wrong. I take a $30 half-season tent and turn it into a 3-season by just pulling a tarp over it. No, I don't just use a tarp as a tent. That ain't happening. Okay? No, you're wrong. As soon as you type that you know what you're doing. No, you're not a mountaineer. No, you're not an outdoorsman because you're wrong. I don't have to listen to you. Shut the hell up. And yes, Fred Meyer specifically made a rule that if you're in an area with a lot of homeless people going in and out of it, name a place that doesn't have that happening. You can't sell cheap tents. Bring the price up to, quote, the barrier for entry price tag was one name they gave it. $55 and up keeps homeless people from buying it. So you don't want poor people buying shelter. And when that came out, they didn't change their policy. They just reworded it so they didn't look like a bunch of douchebags. People working at Fred Meyer were so absolutely disgusted with them doing this right as winter hit one year. So if you're wondering why the price goes up during winter instead of... It's because it's by design. That's not an unintended consequence. They're trying to kill people. Because rich people run corporations, not poor fuckers. Next part. Yes, I'm going to do this. It doesn't matter if you like it. Any sleeping bag. It doesn't matter which one. I prefer square ones, but get whatever you want to. A self-inflating mattress. The cheap one. No, I don't care, but no, I don't want to hear it. You gram weenies out there who yell and scream about brand names, shut the fuck up. People who bitch and complain about how they want to keep everything lightweight because they're ultralight campers. So they want basically you spend the most money possible because you're taught to do that. And you're all a fucking loser. Yeah, you're a loser. You always will be. Now that's placed underneath the sleeping bag. And inside of the tent, we put in a piece of the tarp. Coincidentally, if you use a dome tent, part of that tarp can be used as a ground cloth. And can also be used as a liner inside of the tent. I used to use drop cloths because they would work. and I would deflate the self-inflating mattress completely flat, put the sleeping bag in it, make sure it would work one direction or another. It didn't matter if it was, sideways or front to back, whichever dimension it would fit. And then I would roll up the plastic around it to keep it from being able to have a problem. Then I'd drop the tent, except for the tent pins at the edges, take the outside tarp, also fold it up and put it in there or on top of the tent when I got done with the roll-up. Then I would pull the tent around it and wrap the tent and all of the tarps around my now very dry sleeping bag with my very dry self-inflating mattress, roll it up into a big sausage-looking thing, and stuff it into a stuff sack. All this material does not cost a lot of money. Because I'm fucking poor and I'm fucking homeless at the time. Are we now getting it through our thick fucking skulls here? Right? Alright, it's a poor person. Why don't they have a place to live? Because the rent is too expensive. So what do we do? To solve the homeless problems. Throw, literally in the case of one county that I'm not going to name, it'll be in the video, $1 billion or more a year? $500 million? No, $200 million a year to maintain people not being housed. $200 million a year on homeless people, but avoid letting them have a place to live. This is the zero-sum game fallacy of being rich. The only way I can be rich is because it's a finite resource. It's preached to them from birth. I swear as toddlers they're taught to be sociopaths. That you can't have everybody have everything. Like not being dying and miserable. If I'm happy, someone has to be miserable. That's literally the mindset you hear from these people when they get drunk enough. We used to work as a security technician for businesses and people, and the rich people had one of two attitudes. One, they would say that shit, and the second option, they said they were taught that, and it was bullshit from the beginning, and they hate their parents for it. Because they taught them to be worse than Hitler, was the quote I heard once. So, let's see what this county, it's Multnomah County, around Portland. What do? Well, we'll build 4 sheds and use a contractor, it's totally not a scam, to spend $80,000 to $130,000 to make it to code. Do you know how hard it is to make a building to code? It isn't. You read the manual and you build it. I can build one out of pallets. I have built one. It's still standing. When the city and county tried to find a way to condemn it, we pointed out that we went out of our way to make sure that the building was up to code and had the minimum floor surface area to qualify as a residence, so there was no valid reason to do it. They still wanted to get rid of it because it symbolically meant that people could put up small houses on lots, rent it out, make a profit instead of being under the heel, the hobnailed heel of the bank for decades on a mortgage. No, you take your property you buy, you put more than one building on it, and you rent it out. You pay off the property almost immediately because the people there just want a place to live. The county offered free tiny homes. Free? Okay, the county and bureaucrats got involved in doing something for free to the homeless people that cost the taxpayers $200 million before they did this. And what did they do? They put up 4 sheds for, we're going to say, an average of $100,000. So they threw away the entire homeless budget for 2 years on 4 buildings that you can get at your local garden center as a shell. It's a shell. It is a big wooden tent. No. This is when you tie the politicians down, the NIMBYs and the Karens and Kevins, and all of the other people out there who imagine it's impossible to house everybody. You'd have to actually lower rent. Yeah, that's what they want. They don't want to say that, but that's what's going on. You put them in the slapping machine and you make them read the thing that says 1 + 1 = 2. And while they bitterly complain, vote Trump or whatever bullshit they spew, might say vote Biden for all I know. It doesn't matter. You hook them up to the machine and you use a 100 horsepower slapper to beat them until they fucking stop lying about it. Yeah, you just want to keep homeless people homeless. Residents would house the homeless in their backyard in an accessory dwelling unit, ADU. This is what they are. Well, they have to be up to code. Yeah, I helped someone build one up to code. It cost them $1,000 because we decided to use all new materials. All you have to do is pick the right pallets. They have 16-inch on center studs in them in the first place. It's perfectly legal to build it that way. No matter how much the neighbors screamed, like they were literally hitting high pitch notes and rupturing their bowels over this shit. They were furious that someone did something slightly cheaper than they could because they're nitwits who do not know how to do something. Why should you be happy? I'm not happy enough in their rarefied atmosphere. The residents would be permitted. Dolby gives us a song. They allowed them to put in accessory dwelling units. That's why I'm saying it that way. So homeless people could live there. This is what happens if you do this without a $100,000 grant from the city, county, state, and the federal government. I try to apply to put an ADU in a backyard. We've already built it because ADUs are so small or modular, you can just put them in place in a day. As soon as we got the permit, we put it in place and bolted it together where no one could tell we just did it in an overnight thing. We poured the cement and floated the building on top of the cement. No, I don't want to hear that can't happen. It's still fucking standing. After a tree fell on it. Twice. Yes, it's reinforced with steel. And it passed immediately because we then immediately said, yeah, we're going to pay the expedited service to have all of the inspectors come out. Building quality, good. Fireproofing, good. Wire, good. Water, sewer, spittoons, good. Roof, good. All the inspectors showed up. Spare inspectors, as we call them. The inspectors showed up over a period of 5 or 6 days before the county could figure out, oh, they're really going to get away with it. They're going to get away with doing something we said they could do. Then we got done. We forced them every single time. You're on audio, video recording. Yes or no, did this pass inspection? Yes. What is your name and inspector number and all that shit? Blah, blah, blah. What is this location? Yada, yada. Good. This is going to get posted publicly. If you retract this, we're allowed to take you to court over it. Personally. We're not going to go through the county. You personally. Because your inspection license, if you're not aware of it, in any city, county, and state, is a state-issued license. The state of Oregon does not give a fuck about the NIMBYs. We only did that after we were done with them. And they should have, one after another, inspected it. We got lucky because we just basically, it's a legal bribe to get them to show up because they usually drag their feet. Do this during a period of time where very few people are building a building. They came out, yeah, it's legally a building. One person came out, well, it's a little under, here's your measuring tape again. Before you say it on camera. I'm going to film you, again, finding the numbers and doing the math. Yes, the surface area was exactly 1 square foot more than the minimum square footage and X number of inches more each dimension to make sure the person couldn't lie. This was the only one that tried to lie. Well, it's not up to measure again. You're on audio video recording now lying. And I'm not changing it. Yeah, I got posted to Facebook. And we filed against him. He's still an inspector, but the state of Oregon said, you willfully and negligently lied on a government form. Fuck the city, county, or the neighbors. So the building got put in. The city, county, and state, or whatever. State's okay. City and county are like, well, we need to re-inspect. No. And we just sat on them and kept filing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit using the cheap way because you have to fight to put an ADU in because everybody in the neighborhood knows you're going to move someone in who's poor and actually pay off your mortgage faster than they are. Well, if I can't do it, no one should. Why do you not want to be able to do this on your property? Ew, I don't want to do that. Secretly, they'd love to do it. They'd love to rent out their basement and their attic. But the homeowners association, this was outside of the homeowners association boundary by one house. And that next door neighbor was getting threatened by being absorbed by the homeowners association. So let's get this straight. $130,000 to make a shed. And you wonder why this didn't go anywhere. For four people. So that you spent 2 years of your budget to house 4 people and then act like, surprise Pikachu face. It didn't work. Yeah, because you're avoiding doing what works. But don't lower the rent in your area. That's a chump's game. You got to get those numbers up. Every rich person in the country and every property owning company and corporation, management company, whatever, all need to go very, very bankrupt for this to be fixed. And all of you put up with it. This is your American dream being taken away from you. Carrot and stick mode. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. Homelessness is a symptom of greed.